welcome today to this FolkLaw webinar on marketing predictions for 2025. If you haven't been to one of our webinars yet, these are a series of short, bite-sized sessions where we aim to share the latest insights and knowledge across a host of topics. We've done everything from TikTok for B2B and inclusive comms in action, which we ran with Macmillan last month. So in today's session, we will be turning our sights to 2025 and looking at the key predictions that we're seeing that brands need to know about for next year. So as I say, we'll open for questions at the end, but really great to have you and hope you enjoy what we've put together.
So hi, I'm James. I'm Creative Director here at Folk. Been here for over 4 years now, and I'm responsible for the creative strategy behind a lot of our client work. And prior to joining the agency, I held senior marketing roles, particularly in the financial services sector.
Hello, I'm Laura. I'm an Associate Director. I've been here for about 2 years. Prior to that, I worked at a number of comms agencies, both in London and here in Cardiff, specifically helping the brands that I work with to ensure that their creative platforms and strategies were earned first, really building integrated and impactful campaigns that would embed them in culture. And we work for Folk. We are a creative comms agency based in Cardiff. We work with a number of clients across a number of industries, including healthcare, motor and finance. We provide everything from insights and strategy through to full-blown creative campaigns. Our mission is to create meaningful campaigns with impact, but we have a unique specialism in DE&I. And we are one of the rare agencies that are a team of comms specialists who are set up to take our clients on a journey when it comes to DE&I. And there are some specific ways that we do this, that we'll talk about a little bit later on. But ultimately, we work with clients to create memorable and what we like to think is creatively fearless work that embeds them in the lives of their audiences. So as you can imagine, part of what we do, as you'd expect, is that we need to be a step ahead of what's happening in the markets and consumer lives at any given time. So day in and day out, we're absorbing trends and culture and themes that shape the media and marketing landscape. For us as an agency, but also for the partners and the brands that we work with. But more than just knowing what's coming up, we need to be really quick to adopt this knowledge and shape the strategies and the programs that we develop with the brands and the clients that we work with. So really helping them to turn this insight into very clear action. So in this session, we'll be sharing what we've identified as key themes that will shape next year and what we can do all together to really take advantage of them and certainly use them as an opportunity for growth.
So we wanted to share with you today how we approached the predictions we're going to share. These are based on our strategic framework that underpins the majority of our client work. You can see this here. So it's based on our agency name, Folk. So we have 3 key sort of hexagons in a Venn diagram. There's foresight, observation, and listening. And then that gives us the insight to craft a really compelling brief, which is ultimately the knowledge section. So foresight is anticipating and understanding the macro level forces, trends, and cultural shifts that impact our clients' businesses and their audiences' lives. Observation is analyzing category dynamics, the competitive landscape that they're in, and any emerging opportunities. And that comes through a combination of research, data analysis, and obviously hands-on experience working alongside our clients. And then listening, we've got a few different ways into this from a proprietary product perspective, but it's really about understanding the attitudes, beliefs, values, and needs of our clients' target audiences. We do this through active listening and empathetic engagement. But today we've really focused on foresight and observation to identify the trends that we believe are going to shape 2025. So we've looked into, what trends are starting to appear right now. We're analyzing what's behind that trend, how quickly it's moving, what barriers there are for brands to adopt the trend. And then we've developed a prediction of what we think is going to happen to that trend in 2025, based on certain things like technology changes, consumer behavior, changes in demand, etc. And then what we've done as well is showcase practical implications for the brands, including any changes or adaptations that they need to make, as well as the opportunities it presents. So hopefully at the end of today's webinar, you'll be able to go away and embed this into your planning for 2025.
So before we look at what's coming next year, I think it would be remiss of us if we didn't acknowledge what has been taking shape this year. It's no surprise, obviously, we've all been experiencing that economic uncertainty, global conflict, general election, Trump rearing his head. It's been a volatile 12 months for all of us. And absolutely, even still, yes, we are all still feeling the effects of COVID and lockdown. So all of these things will have really played a role in the volatility that we're all feeling this year. And in fact, we looked at some research that was conducted at the beginning of this year, and it showed that 67% of comms professionals actually said that they didn't feel that they had the confidence of a really good marketing action plan in place or a documented business plan going into the year. So we're really seeing that kind of come through the year, with a lot of companies adopting a bit of a wait and see approach amid this uncertainty. But inflation is slowing. We've got a new government. We're moving further away from the pandemic years. That's all having an effect. So there really is a sense of optimism that is going into next year. If you look at YouGov's mood barometer, Britain's mood this year is marginally, but it is less stressed and frustrated and sad compared to this time last year. So we're really seeing that as an opportunity to resettle into stability and refocus away from the immediate pressures to deliver some short-term results. And we're already seeing that happen in part, and brands focusing on bigger brand building activities like chaos packaging, which is a hugely emerging trend that's really starting to take over. A lot more kind of boundary pushing creative out of home is starting to come about as well, which is really, really good to see. So what does this mean for next year? So you'll heard that we just said that at the start of the year, last year, 67% of comms professionals said they didn't feel they had a marketing plan going into this year. So lots of factors we've covered as to why that's the case, but we wanted to start by posing the same question to all of you. How do you feel going into next year? Do you feel that you have an actionable comms plan in place to help you meet your business objectives? So there'll be a poll going around now, and then we will reveal results at the end. So on to our first trend, the key insights that have shaped this. So increasingly, we're seeing this year, as we just alluded to, a huge pressure to deliver quick wins due to budget constraints. Measurement has often been skewed towards this short-term performance and tangible quick wins over that long-term sustainable growth. Also, in part, we think is really due to this political volatility. A new budget, obviously people, adopting a bit of a wait and see approach that we mentioned. Pressures from leadership can also make it hard to balance this long-term growth with short-term growth, because they typically do place a higher value on those quick tangible wins. And actually, in fact, business analysts now consider a brand's effectiveness as a critical part of a business's total value. So that really has to shape what we do into next year.
So we're calling this prediction the growth balance. 2025 is going to mark a definitive shift in how businesses value and measure their brand investment. Successful companies are going to move beyond the typical brand v performance divide and see an increased emphasis on metrics like brand contribution, which quantifies the proportion of a company's value that's attributable to the brand alone. This will put a higher value on the longer term engagement plans to show how it's going to impact key business success. We'll also see a new era of brand measurement emerge with sophisticated frameworks quantifying this longer term financial impact of brand building activities. Brands that can build stronger brand equity than is expected given their size are primed for much faster growth. Brands that position themselves as both meaningful and different are more likely to be chosen by consumers and also allow them to command a price premium. The most successful brands are also going to be those that can translate purpose into tangible value, moving beyond any superficial positioning to demonstrate a genuine action on societal issues. Strategic collaborations are also going to become a core pillar of brand building, particularly those brands that maybe don't have the budgets to invest in media for the brand, with carefully orchestrated partnerships that help those brands create meaningful connections with specific audience segments.
So balancing growth next year with short and long-term activities. What we need to do to take advantage of that, firstly, internally, implement new measurement frameworks that really connect brand metrics with an organization's overall value and total growth and future growth potential. It will really show brand building creates that stronger brand predisposition. And a key one here is starting to move away from ROI and focusing more on sophisticated tools like econometrics. And that will really help show leader teams how this directly impacts to commercial performance across all channels. Externally, look at that brand building power. Look at activities that predispose more people to your brand. Show up in culture and the places that matter to them without that expectation of short-term gains. Sort of baseline level, we would say this is staying across trends and reacting to trends and showing relevancy in people's lives in the spaces and the places that they already operate and that matter to them. So identify those untapped areas where they are and where your brand can come in with relevancy and influence. And yeah, it'll show that even if they're not in market at the time, it will increase that propensity to purchase later down the line when they are in consideration. And collaborate, a huge part of this puzzle here is really about the power of partnerships and driving that brand love and relevancy. So borrowing brand equity, reaching new audiences with meaningful activity and collaborations. And that will really help build relevancy across the board. So we've seen that this year with Marks and Spencer's teaming up with the likes of Sweaty Betty, Monzo and Greggs. But the key thing here is for differentiation is partnerships with purpose and meaning. And we'll talk a little bit about an example where we've done that this year. And again, you know, you're going to be seen as relevant to their lives and increase consideration later down the line. And finally, put the emotion back in. So focus on meaning and emotional impact without having to push your product overtly. And that will really help build equity long term. The way we did this recently was with Admiral Insurance. So we were briefed on a campaign to raise awareness of numbers of road traffic accidents involving men. And to do that, we used insight with young drivers and their parents. And what it turned into was a emotion-led hero film that encouraged more people to have more meaningful conversations around road safety. So really leaning into that emotional pull of such an important topic. And that also led us to doing a partnership with Headway. So when we talk about collaborations, having that meaningfulness and that purpose, go into those with intention. And, you know, don't just sort of choose a partner for the sake of it because they have reach or scale. It's got to have that meaning. So prefer, you know, even if that's preferring one that is on a micro level and a bit more niche, it could have a lot more impact.
Okay, so the key insights and trends that shape the second prediction today. We've seen several brands in the US particularly, including the likes of Microsoft, who have pulled back from their diverse supplier goals. And we've seen Heinz face backlash this year on having to pull 2 ads over stereotypes. This has sparked renewed debates about the importance of standing by inclusive messaging. Many brands, you know, never locked in their DI goals. They faced internal friction, or they've shied away from appearing political in what is already a divisive year. Yet, as research shows, internally, most employees support DI initiatives, and externally, consumers expect it. So as marketers, we must ensure that our efforts don't shrink in 2025 by addressing any internal resistance, demonstrating DEI's value to budget holders, and maintaining the momentum of progress that we've made so far.
So the prediction next year is the reignition of DE&I. So as James said, you know, looking at brands that are pulling back their efforts, it's really about us doubling down and making sure that that doesn't continue and become the norm from a brand point of view into next year, where consumers expect the exact opposite. So next year, there will be a sort of full-blown public accountability through all communications at all levels on DE&I programs. Organizations we expect to be judged by where and how they choose to put these efforts, with greater scrutiny on conscious media choices and supporting diverse voices across the board. So that means ensuring things like inclusive audience testing and targeting and supporting media and partners that actively are seen to contribute to a more inclusive media landscape. And this certainly can't be just an internal initiative. It needs to be a key accountability measure reflected in all communications and all across the business. So yes, as we say, efforts really need to be consistent from the inside out across all channels, to be authentic, where, can have happened in the past where we sort of see people working in silo and where it's not reflected within the business itself. It brings huge risks and isolating, obviously, not only marginalized audience, but all of those who do rightly so expect D&I to be the norm. So in short, brands that really diverse in these inclusive communications ecosystems and support diverse content creators, they should really expect to see enhanced brand loyalty into next year, especially in the face of, I think it was in the US, sort of 7 of the biggest companies sort of really pulling back for various reasons, but obviously we don't want that to continue to be the case.
So here are some key ways that we want to share with you to make sure there isn't the case for you and your brands and your businesses. So really it's about reflection, it's having a direct line into the communities and the diverse voices who can test and consult on your communications and ensure that any activities reflect their world and aren't single-minded. This will really help with avoid any sort of alienating of audiences and potential subsequent backlash. Next work's about measurement. So I think just quantifying anything that you're doing. There's tools like the Inclusion Index, which can help you measure D&I's impact on brand perception, tracking how your inclusive investments shape trust and engagement. And it's about being consistent as well as having clear-cut values that are communicated consistently without waffle. Brands that aren't clear or backtrack are going to look really feeble, but those that stick with them will be largely supported by diverse voices. And it goes beyond the brand, obviously. It isn't a brand activity. It's got to be sort of embedded in the fabric of the entire business. Inclusive audits can help businesses, look at entire identity and advise ways to shape this to better reflect and speak to all customers. We've done that with partners like Macmillan and the Welsh Government in terms of audits for their communications. And it's all about walking the walk and talking the talk. One of our clients, Principality Building Society, does a really, really good job of this. It's not just about changing the logo during a calendar month, but really advocating for those communities, and Principality do a great job for that, both internally and externally, supporting the LGBTQ plus community. So they have a network within the business, but also sponsorship of Pride Cymru, and also having the Pride roundabout in their sponsorship of the half marathon. So yeah, it's really about walking the walk and talking the talk.
Okay, and our final trend on our whistle stop tour, key insights that shape this. So we've seen this year a decline in social media ads, but obviously that throws up a challenge for us to find way more ways to meaningfully connect. As we invest more in brand next year, by default, customers will expect a more elevated brand experience as a result. That just comes part of the core, where things expect to sort of speed up and increase on a brand level. And yet, 75% of brand equity growth now actually comes from experiences, and it way outweighs traditional paid advertising and the impact of that. And particularly, underpinning this, there's lots of discourse around how we can create enhanced, more personalized experiences next year, especially with privacy laws about to change, meaning we can't get up close and personal quickly in ways that we've maybe so far relied on.
Yeah, so we're calling this prediction the brand experience. In 2025, successful companies are going to shift from viewing brand and experience as separate entities to treating every consumer touchpoint as a critical brand moment. This evolution goes beyond basic consistency, but it's about really creating meaningful differentiation at every interaction, whether that's customer service, product development, right through to the digital interfaces that they engage with, like apps, quote processes, and even forms on your website. The dissolution of cookies next year is going to amplify this further. We're going to need to find other ways to connect on a personal level without relying on invasive data collection for personalization. We'll also see the rise of experience intelligence. So this is sophisticated measurement frameworks that evaluate not just the functional efficiency of consumer touch points, but also the emotional resonance and the meaningful differentiation with them. And brand teams, we would recommend that they expand their remit beyond traditional marketing, and they become what we're calling orchestrators of experience right through the whole business, ensuring that every interaction that your consumer has builds brand equity. This focus of moving towards a experience-led brand building, where everyday interactions you know, do more heavy lifting than traditional advertising. And we've seen that quite a lot with, you know, brands like Greggs and Premier do a really, really good job at that as well.
Absolutely. So the brand experience, how can we take advantage of this next year? So firstly is orchestrate. So start to play a more active role in, and integration will be really, really key here, but play a more active role in the experience delivery of the brand across all business functions. So really, this is about breaking down the silos between brand, customer experience, product, service teams. As comms experts, how can we collectively, you know, expand our influence beyond our remit to ensure that the experience is consistent across the board? Design for differentiation. So design all facets of the business and try and have a sway in how this is done internally, as we say. Design all facets with a meaningful and differentiated brand experience at the center of your thinking. And only then, when we make each touch point cohesive from a customer service experience, even through to a influencer collaboration, at that point then can we elevate ourselves more meaningfully different than our competitors. Empower and enable. So this is about seeing customer facing teams and people who are on the front line of the business essentially as primary brand sales and ambassadors. So empowering them to deliver a cohesive brand experience at all levels. So acknowledging their role as brand guardians. And our client, again, Principality is a really great example of bringing branch teams along the brand journey. So brand campaigns or any kind of communication campaigns that they run is really felt within that brand experience all across Wales. And finally, putting all of those three components in place, we've got to measure it. So, you know, adopt new measurement tools that track both the functional performance with things like emotional resonance across all of these interactions. And that can be done through things like comprehensive touchpoint maps and new ways that we can kind of start to really measure out that brand experience. Can we add KPIs around experience-driven branding? So building on these rather than traditional metrics, and encouraging the C-suite to recognize and support this by even maybe restructuring brand teams. So there's a lot that we can do there. And that brings us to the end of our whistle-stop tour. We've got 4 minutes left of the key trends that we need to stay aware of for next year. So just to summarize, we've got the growth balance. So this one is about an increased investment in longer-term brand in the face of short-term pressures. We talked about, you know, things economically sort of evening out. There is that confidence there, but it's not going away. You know, there is still uncertainty. So it's just about bringing brand back to the fore as a long-term play as well to help weather against any future economic uncertainty. Reignition of D&I, so reprioritization of this in all facets of an organization in line with consumer expectation. And then the brand experience, so making sure that these are meaningfully baked into every customer touch point, which will be the expectation of customers next year. So as we say, at a time of uneven growth, I think we all need to think carefully about the strategies that we are taking into next year, but hopefully this session has made some of those decisions a little bit easier on where you put your efforts into next year. One key thing that we haven't talked about is the big AI elephant in the room. So obviously we recognize that AI has dramatically shifted the way our industry operates this year. There's no doubt, you know, it's an unstoppable force that will continue into next year, and it gives us huge opportunities that we can reap. But we really do believe that everything we do has to remain human-led, and that's not to say to ignore AI. You know, it's a huge opportunity for us, and we certainly have our own kind of policy in place here that we regularly look at, but it's really about everything coming from a human space first. So in us pulling out key themes for next year that lead from that human space. We hope that that means that we can adopt AI into approaches that we know are strategically sound at their core. So that's how we've come at it from AI. And in fact, if you ask AI what the top marketing trends are for next year, it would all be AI. And we've done that work, and it is what it says.
So what does this all mean for you? So I think ultimately is like re-looking at the strategies and priorities ahead of the new year, make any relevant adjustments to measurement frameworks. We've mentioned measurement across the board. It's really important to get buy-in from investment into brand right through to DEI initiatives, and ensure that your approach is always audience first. That's really going to help you build brand credibility, whether that's working with influencers, partners, or on-screen talent. And yeah, engage with diverse communities at all points of planning. You really want to make sure that, you know, anything that we put out in the world is reflected in that world. One way that, you know, we do that is with the Real Folk panel. We use the Real Folk panel to engage with audiences and build insights. And they're a community of diverse and represented voices, and they support brands to ensure inclusivity is at the heart of every campaign and allow you to work authentically. And that panel embodies, you know, a mosaic of real world experiences and perspectives from LGBTQ+ to diverse ethnicities, age groups, disabilities, faiths, genders, and different socioeconomic backgrounds.
Great. So yeah, if you remember at the start of the webinar, we did mention that 67% of comms professionals said that they didn't have a clear marketing plan going into place this year. And we asked, you know, how are you guys feeling this year? So I think the results are in, James.
They are. The results are in. I feel like we're on a lottery program. Yeah, no one seems to feel that they don't have an actionable comms plan going into 2025, which is really good. However, nobody does have an actionable comms plan going into 25. Everyone's currently working on it. So yes, obviously a lot more positive than what we saw at the start of 2024. And hopefully, you know, if you're working on your plans for 2025, that, you know, the actionable insights that we've shared with you today will be able to feed into that.
And yeah, I guess open for any questions, but you know, if you do want to get in touch for a free consultation or a workshop on how to apply these and other trends that we've spotted into next year, feel free to get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, if you've got any questions, there's a chat function, or feel free to speak out. Otherwise, yeah, we'll send this round after, and feel free to follow up.
Yeah, so a few people have joined a little bit later in. So yeah, we've recorded this webinar today, and we will be posting this on our socials. So keep an eye out on that. And if you do have any questions, please let us know either using the functionality on Zoom or over email. No questions as yet. So
great. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate taking time out of your day. We're finishing bang on 3 o'clock. Yeah, we'll send this round, and enjoy the rest of 2024, and good luck with everything next year. We hope to speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.